Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our channel, Faith by Grace. I'm Nadia.
And I'm Brittany.
On this channel, we bring you faith-based content on our life's journey.
Guys, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and press that notification bell to get updated when we post.
Okay. So,
I left off.
you ready for this
episode?
Yeah, this conversation.
It gets real. Dun, dun, dun. Where did we leave off? When I left the house. We left the house.
Okay. Yes.
Yes.
So we got into. Did I do the huge fight the last time? So we got into a really huge fight.
Mm-hmm.
She was 17 and a half. She was going to turn 18 that August. She was graduating. It was her graduating year.
It was.
And this stemmed off of the boy in the house. And yeah, so she went to a trusted friend of mine. And she was literally supposed to go for 3 days. Well, that was in my head. I'm going to let her go for 3 days. And 3 days turned to 4.5 years. She never came back home.
Yes.
So what I regret the most, and I think I had touched on it in the last video, was like, I just don't care how bad it gets. Or at least I shouldn't have said that, because sometimes you need a break.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish it was someone like maybe Auntie Anna,
Mm-hmm.
where I just trusted this person. I thought it was going to be an encouragement. But on the other side, this person was playing like a double. This was a person I looked on like a mom. Like, I held her. Like, to me, she was just someone I really trusted. She's an older woman. I kind of, look onto her, look up to her in a sense of, this is a mother and figure, and she was always there for me. I met her at some point when the kids were younger, so she kind of watched them grow. Mm-hmm. So I didn't expect the two sides, and be careful of that. I'm not even saying this to like disparage this person's character, because the good out of her was she did a lot of good for me.
It's just to be careful of who you are. Like,
it's just like when the enemy comes in,
mm-hmm.
he will use any and every situation. That's why we have to stay so vigilant,
prayed up,
and so spiritually aware, which I was not. Where I'm walking now in my journey, I was very far from that. Exactly. 4.5 years ago. Always knew God, but we say we know God, but do you really know God? Do you have a relationship with God? Are you talking to him daily? Every word that's coming out your mouth, are you being held accountable by God? Because now God holds me accountable. Like, I'm like gossiping, whatever it is, like that was so easy to do at one point. It's not, because I feel that chastisement upon myself. So now I'm trying to walk righteously. Are we ever truly righteous? Absolutely not. We need Jesus for that. But I'm trying to walk like Jesus. So back to this situation. So she left home. She was there. I remember going over to her house, to this person's house, and we had a little round table talk. And I'm going to put this out there. One of the things that happened was the person that she was talking about before, that he's not here to defend himself. So it's definitely, he was with me. Now, this was like a best friend to me. This was like a really, I just needed a friend. Like, he was like a friend, and he was there for my son, and, and he overstepped his bounds, and we were having a round table talk, and it was me and her brother was young. He was like present, but not so much. And he was there, and it wasn't planned. I didn't expect this person to say the things he said, but sometimes when you're like confident, like expressing yourself to someone, people will, I don't think it was done in a malicious way, people will take up your burdens and try to give their opinion, and that really hurt you, right?
Yep. That was just drove me further out the ballpark.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I can't deal with this lady. I'm definitely not dealing with him. It was like, forget you guys at that point, because the little hope I had left, it was like, no. And the situation she's talking about was, I felt as though he told me, I put myself in the place to be sexually violated. And I was like, I was frustrated. I looked at my mom. I felt like she didn't say anything. She didn't defend me. I felt like nothing was done. And I felt like, that's why I said, I felt like you telling him was just like, ammunition for him to use that against me.
I know how you felt, and I'm not disregarding your feelings, but I know he didn't perceive it as that. As I observed, I know he did prejudge you from things that happened in his life with his sister. So I know that he may have came off a little bit harsher, but it wasn't, there was love for you. There was no, that's just how you took it. I'm not saying you shouldn't feel the way you felt, but and I'm not trying to defend him, but I'm trying to look at it in a fair vantage point. Like, I know that's not what he wanted to do. He did overstep his bounds, but then he also had that complex, like he was just like this caretaker. That's a whole different story. I don't even want to get too deep into this person because, like I said, he's not here to defend himself, and
but
it's tough. But that's when I look at it, and because you may have felt like that, but it truly wasn't that. You did say it around the table, and I tried to explain it to you. She was not receiving it.
It wasn't just that. Even when you explained it to me, it was the day after when you guys left. I believe it was like my mom, I told her how I felt. It was just me and you having a conversation, and I felt like you backed him up. You're like, well, if you think about it, you really did put yourself in a situation. I was like, yeah, I'm done talking to her. I was like, at that point, I was like, I want nothing to do with her because, like, how could you say that about me? Because, and I just felt like at that time, I was like, oh, that's, oh, her putting a man before me again, her choosing the man's side, this and that. That's how I felt at the time. And I was just like, at that point, hatred was already built up, unforgiveness. I was angry, and I was like, yeah. So that drove me away for another how many years? Like certain things,
No,
everything added to the
it was a lot more.
No,
in
I know. I'm just
between.
saying that. Just
Yeah, that was like the beginning,
the cherry topper for me.
Right, but and as for her, I'm not negating your feelings, but I felt like where I was coming from, and I think I mentioned it in previous videos, like I was just so angry and in such a hurt place. Because what children don't realize is, you know, and when I said you put yourself into that situation, because I thought I raised my daughter so smart for certain situations. There were things that was happening in school and she was doing that she shouldn't have found herself in that situation. So when this situation was revealed and she was in that predicament at the time, I was like, well, why would you go there? Why would you listen? Why would you go to that familiar spot? Why were you doing that? But regardless of what, she was hurt and she was abused, and this other person abused her and took advantage of that. And then I was so confused too because I didn't know. And she was still somewhat friends with this person.
No, not that time.
Not that time, but before you revealed everything, that person would still come around me. You guys weren't together and you had broken up.
We barely talked though.
Yeah, and I remember that time when that person broke down, you were like consoling him. But as a person who has been victimized myself and experienced that, I get it. I get it 100%. But my fear, my biggest fear, my terror came through was having my child violated. I did everything to not have that happen. Mm-hmm. So I was protecting from other outside forces, but it was right underneath my nose. Like I didn't remember to look for the boyfriend aspect. Like I just had so much confidence that she would have just told me. But then I understand why she didn't tell me, because only God knows what I would have done. And I know, like I said, I wasn't walking with God then like the way I should have been. And only God himself could have came down and stopped me from reacting with, because it would have been this pain from myself, my past experience, and this urge to just destroy. But I mean, moving on from that, there were other issues in that, because then another incident, I remember I came and picked you up like maybe 2 weeks later. I don't even remember. I don't remember the time distance. And I took you guys to Swap Shop, remember? Mm-hmm. And her brother just kicked off in the car.
No, it was me and you.
Was it?
Yes, it was when you took us. Let's back it up. My mom and the guy came and got me from the friend's house, and with my brother, we were going to the doctor's office. No, we're talking about
two different incidents.
No, it's the same time. We were going to the doctor's office, and I got in the car, and at that time, mind you, your friend had given me the car, whatever you guys was using, and I felt like
Brittany, that's not what I'm talking about.
It's the same
I'm talking
time.
about when Brittany and you and Trell and me went to the swap shop.
Mom,
he wasn't in the car.
Mom, if you let me finish, it's the same exact time.
Okay.
So this is very vibrant in my head. So when they picked me up, he didn't say anything to me, and I was like, he didn't say nothing to me. So when when they got me, I'm in the car and I'm saying hi to everybody, even though there's friction or tension. He didn't say anything to me, and I was like, okay, I felt some type of way about that. Then they dropped him off at wherever he was going, and then we went to the doctor's office. And I remember being in the doctor's office, and I was like, when are we going to be a family again? Because my heart was racing. I was nervous.
In the doctor's office?
Me, you, and Tro.
Oh.
We were like, when are we going to be a family again? And then it was like, I was like, Brittany, what are you talking about? Here you go, like, starting stuff again. And I was like, I'm not starting anything, I'm asking. And she was like, she just rolled her eyes. And I just remember that hurt me like a ton of darts. Because at that time, Mom didn't realize how sensitive I was. So I took everything to heart. And we were already in a very sticky place. But I felt like in that time, I still needed my family without knowing. And I was crying out without even knowing. So for me to even say that, I was being vulnerable, and I feel like in which I wasn't really vulnerable in my teenage years. I would just act like I was just so tough, but everything was eating me inside. So that hurt. And then after that, we went to swap shop. But I think on the way there, me and my mom are getting, we just kept arguing. But really, I remember we were arguing. I was just in so much pain because of a whole bunch of things that happened. And that's when Troy was like, just take her home. I don't want to hear this. Yeah, she's arguing too much. Just take her home. That's what happened.
I don't even remember the other part of it.
Yeah, because that was
like, I don't remember the doctor's office. Mm-hmm. I don't remember the other person being in the car. I don't even remember him being there that day. Mm-hmm. Because just to show you that person wasn't relevant to what was going on for me, like to me, but you were focused on that person. I was in such a place of anger and betrayal too, in the sense of, man, we're going to go through this again, because let's rewind when we went through what she went through with being abused, because the abuse was done. You're right. That was like the year prior. Yeah. So that was done. And then I had to take time off of work because my daughter literally, that's a whole nother topic, but she literally was like, if you believe in demons, I could tell you another story, but I'm not talking about that right now, but that's a story we'll get to. But my daughter was under spiritual attack.
What?
I saw this girl mentally like lose it, and I had to take time off of work. Mm-hmm. So I took about 3 months, 3 months off of work. And this was a year later. Mm-hmm. And after all of that, I had to switch, like I used to work one place. I had to switch schools to be uncomfortable for her, to be closer to her, that God forbid when she transitioned back into school that I had to run out. I just wanted to be closer to home. So here I was a year later, like kind of like going through this other situation. And I'm like, with this other young man, because that's what triggered it to me. That's how I was feeling at the time. I'm not saying it was right, guys. I'm just letting you know my feelings. Right. I'm like, what the heck? And that was a part of the hurt. It wasn't the act of so much. Well, no,
it was the act. I did
not like. It wasn't the act of you being intimate.
But it was in the house.
It was just that I felt extremely betrayed. Listen, I wasn't laying up with nobody. You understand? I didn't feel like we grown. Like I wasn't trying to bring that into my household. So I told her, and we sat down and we talked about it, And this could just be, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, well, kids do things, but no. I have my principles, and I'm glad I stuck with my principles because my daughter still came home. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, there was many other factors. Her father's side of the family let me tell you, it got rough. I'm not here to put anybody down. Like and that wouldn't be so ungodly, but there were different things.
The enemy was busy.
Let's just say that at her young, impressionable mind, because at the same time, Brittany, you coming back home now, one day I was just looking at my daughter and seeing how she was answering me and talking to me. I'm like, who is this kid? Like, is this the same girl that was staying with me? Because everything she questioned, everything, she was so insecure. And I'm like, And I had to sit back and try to reflect. I was like, has she always been like this? And I just assumed she was a much stronger kid because she had this facade, like she was so strong and she put up this guard. And I thought she was a very strong young lady. And
I just didn't like to let people in. I was just very hard. So it just came off as I was a strong person, but really it was just, I knew I had trust issues. I knew my feelings were vulnerable, and that's done everything for my dad when I was younger. And then I just became this person. It was just, I just didn't. That was I think my staple was I don't care. I don't care.
So
everything was I don't care. Even in my adult life, that was a problem. And this relationship that we're about to talk about was just I don't care. And it wasn't that I didn't care. It was just that the emotions are too much right now for me to process. So all I can sum it up and say is just I don't care. And that's how it came off. But really, it was just too much. Too much mentally, too much physically, and I wasn't with God the way I should have been. I knew God. I knew who God was, but I wasn't serving the Lord how I should have. I wasn't serving the Lord. I was in the world, of the world, doing things in the world. So my mind, everything was just blank. And that just stemmed, and then next was the boy. That was just full complete control. After that, it was first, that friend. But the last big blow, I think, for me, my mom, was that same friend she sent me to. My mom one day came and was like, that same powwow we had with the guy was you were calling me back home, remember? And I was like, I'm not going back home with you. But she made it seem like she was calling me back home to pack up the house. I'm like,
it's the same day, guys. It's the same.
Like,
it's not the same day.
It's the same. No, it's the same day.
Not with the swap shop. This is a different day. The first time we had the big powwow.
No, I'm talking about the day we had the powwow. I'm not talking about swap shop. And he's like, you're coming back home.
Y'all know we in Florida, swap shop.
You're coming back home for 2 weeks. And I'm like, to help me pack. I'm like, I don't want to help you pack. Why can't they help you pack? I'm thinking, here she go using me. But she said she was trying to call me home. But I was like, here she go using me to want to pack. And she talking about 2 weeks. And I hurt my feelings. I was like, she talking about 2 weeks and want to send me back. I was like, no, I'm not going.
Guys, if you're a parent, I was just trying to get this child to come home. I said to her, okay, you want to stay. Well, you got to come back home and help me pack. Child, it was the way I handled it because, that, because she wasn't accepting sorry. And I didn't really feel sorry at the time. So I was just being a mom you
just going to have to do it. I say.
Yeah, you're going to do it.
You're still 17. That was your thing.
My regret was I should have stuck with that because you're going to hear further into the story. It gets worse before it gets better. I should have stuck with that because in the sense of I should have just called 911 and got my kid out. I should have just called 911. Hey, pack your stuff and go, because it was my right to bring my child home. Mm-hmm. I let her stay in a situation where she was used. She was used by other adults, people around her, because I was the enemy and I was labeled as the enemy. So when I'm labeled as the enemy, what she didn't realize, there was no mama bear behind her anymore. And people saw that. And, people may seem like they have good intentions, but what I've learned on this, guys, you see a person's face, but you don't see their heart. Nope. That's why God loves you, not by the words out your mouth. It's the content of your heart, because your heart won't lie about who you are. So I can say, praise God, hallelujah. I love the Lord. I tithe, I go to church. Jesus is thing, and my heart is so corrupt. So I think when Mama Bear backed away, she went through some stuff. Do you want to share?
Yeah, I went through a lot. I just think the last thing was just the graduation. That friend of hers, every day I would go to school and work, and it was hard for me to go to school then because my mom, I think she had the car I was supposed to be using at one point, and then the lady was dropping me off to school, and then it became a lot because she had to drop her niece off or granddaughter or whatever. And it was a lot for her. So then I had to stay with a friend because it was my senior year. I had to stay with a friend for the last week of school that her parents let me. And I was like, my mom, me and her weren't getting along. I was with the boy way more because the friend and the boy was right down the street. At this point, I'm I'm fully on my own. I'm independent. I'm grown. And I was just doing me. School, work, and I'm being honest. It's just it's just what it is. I'm not gonna lie about it. School, work, and then to the point where I had to quit. I think work because it just became too much. I didn't have accessibility, and it was just bad because you didn't even know in those times things were already bad with me and the boy. It was just toxic. Like, it started from, I feel like my senior year is when things really kicked off. You know, he showed me who he was before that. It was like more so verbal abuse here and there, like very spotty. But my senior year was just, it was toxic. Cursing at me, calling me out my name. Then we call each other out our name. And I was so angry because towards you too. I felt like then I became aggressive. I was putting my hands on him sometimes, and it was just toxic. And I remember one time that same friend house that I was staying at, I don't remember what the argument was about, but he was like telling me get out his car, and he like choked me and like pulled me out like by my neck and sat, and I was just sitting next. I remember sitting next to the garbage can just crying. So it's like you just remember things, and I'm just like, man, like in that moment you look at it, it's like I was just like, what's life? Like, my mom is against me. My mom don't like me. This boy, and it was like for some reason it was like I still went back every time. Then the whole thing with my friend happened. I mean, with the car happened, the car situation. When I told you I didn't want you at my graduation, popped off the tags.
That's not how that went.
No, but let me tell you how it went. Because every time I came, I was like going back. Every time I came home to the friend's house, like whenever I would go, she'd like, oh, you know, your mom keeps talking to me and telling me she not coming to your graduation. She not coming to your graduation. And I was like, what? Like, why does she keep saying that? Like, that's weird. And she's like, yeah, she told one of her friends. She even named the friend and everything. She even told one of her friends, oh, and then she told me they had to talk her down. And she was like, I told her that's not right. And I was like, but why would she say that? It was like on 4 different occasions until I was fighting, like, you know what? Me and my mom, I think we got into it on the phone. And I was just like, I don't want you there. If you don't want to be there, I don't want to be there. And then I don't want you there, you and my brother. And she got upset, and then she came. We got into argument. She popped off the tag off my car in front of my friend and then her friends. And I was like, dang, this just sucks. I was like, life at this point sucks. Like, that to me was like one of the worst times in my life.
And that's her version.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you my version. So the same friend was telling me, I may have said, I don't know, it seems like Brittany don't want me at her graduation, right? But I never said I didn't want to go because I had plans. I even had my outfit, guys. I sure did. I had my whole outfit to wear. We were excited about it. The person in question that we can't mention, the guy, my best friend, he was supposed to come, but he was no longer going to come. But I guess this friend, the lady, my friend, was telling her that, oh, your mom don't want, that's what you told me, that your mom don't want to come because he can't go on. That was just a wicked lie.
Yeah.
But any which way, so I get a call one day. I used to say to her, Brittany, are you sure? Because I'm hearing that she doesn't really want me or she's not sure. So I'm like, are you sure you want me to come? If you don't want me to come, but at least Charles could come. Then all of a sudden she's like, I don't want you or Latrell to come. Okay. Now, I was hurt. And then I decided, man, I ain't going. All right, she don't want me to come. I ain't going. But the car situation, I did not pop off the tags because you didn't invite me to your graduation. That's not what happened. Let's go back into the car situation. So she got this car from some friends of mine that lived in Miami. Very nice uncle figure. And he gave her this little car. I don't even remember what the name of the car. Pretty cute car.
Dodge Neon.
2003.
You had to roll down the windows, but I was still popping.
Yeah, right. So she got her little car. Remember now, she got her little car. She grown. She independent. And at the same time, my car got into a car accident. Like within the same time. She was driving her car, whatever, but she couldn't drive it on her own because it was under my name, whatever. So when my car got in that car accident, this same person who gave her the car, I was buying a vehicle from him. But it took like a month. It took him a while to get me that vehicle. And so I had to use her car. She was no longer living with me. That kind of made her kind of upset because she felt like it was her car. Teenagers, right? But I had to use a car because I had to get to work. So I was using the car. So she just knows I have her car, right? Fine. But I'm using her car, but I'm rushing this other person, uncle figure to get me the car. Like, hey, get me the car, get me like he got me the car. Then so I had to get new plates for my car, get plates for her car, insure my name. I'm paying insurance. I'm paying the extra insurance. So she comes to my new place to come get the car. When I tell you this little girl, I'm talking to her and I'm talking to her about the car, whatever. She comes behind me, she gets the car. Okay. All right. And I'm like, I was like, okay. But it was just the behaviors. It wasn't because I'm not that petty. It was, we got in an argument. When I came and got that car, it was after that argument. You remember that argument?
That was the same argument we talking about on the phone, yeah. But that's not what that day with we getting the car, I felt some type of way because I felt like she didn't invite me into the new house she was staying, and that hurt my feelings. I was like, oh, she's not inviting me into this house because this man, like, you know, they're roommates and he lives there. I felt some type of way, and I was like, yeah, I'm like over it.
So, and that's my problem. Like, everything was in her head. Do you know why I didn't invite her in? Why would I invite her in when you didn't even want me at your graduation? Look, it doesn't make any sense.
And that was the thing. I didn't say I didn't want you at your graduation.
But Brittany, your whole behavior, you didn't talk to me. I'm not that person. You must realize I still am like, I'm an adult. I'm not going to chase behind a child in the sense of, you're not speaking to your mom. Do you really think I'm going to invite you in? You don't talk to me. When you go to you're at your friend's house, you're at this lady's house, you're between them, you're at your boyfriend, you're with those people. You are not dealing with me. Why would I rationally invite you in my home?
Well, I just felt like
I'm trying to.
I'm saying I feel like I'm still your child. I'm still your seed. So
that's not reality.
So you should still invite me.
No, I'm not, and I won't, because like if you're not for me, I'm not going to, in a sense of, yeah, you're my child, but I'm going to invite you to my house to be like, what? To stand up there and be like, you want something to drink? I can't. Yeah.
To
okay.
me, I felt like
it would have been attitude, and then I would have just probably pitch her down the stairs.
I'm
like, what are you doing?
Her daughter, so
children, like, parents side with me. It makes no sense.
But to us, it makes sense because it's like, that's my mom and she not going to invite, like, not even a glass of lemonade. Like, you didn't even say nothing.
No, like, you got your car.
Got my car and just
you got your car that I'm paying for. Like, I insured. I put plates on. I transferred over plates. She don't understand the fees and all of that. You getting that. So that goes on, and she's at her friend. And like she said, for the last couple weeks of school or whatever, a week or I don't know. I don't know that part. And so this particular day, children, I tell you, this particular day I'm at work and she calls me. Mind you, I was just transitioning I was working at school board. I was still assistant. And she calls me and she goes, yeah, hello, mom. I was mad. Hello, mom. Hey, Brittany. What was the conversation? You go ahead.
I just told her I didn't want her at my graduation.
She's like, I don't want you at graduation, but it wasn't, I don't want you at my graduation. No, you didn't tell me you didn't want me at your graduation then. You had already told me that. You told me you didn't want me at graduation. It was a weekend. And you didn't tell me that while I was at work. You had already told me you didn't want me at your graduation. That's what I'm saying. You already have the car. Then after you told me you didn't want me at graduation. So it wasn't one thing to do with the other. I forgot what you were calling me from. It's something with your, oh yeah, I don't remember what she was calling me for. And I said to her, Brittany, it was just, when I tell you the attitude was real, and I'm just, I don't like that disrespect. And I remember saying, Brittany, don't talk. Who you talking to? That is not what she said. She said, no, I'm gonna finish. I'm very truthful, because I even told the cops what I said. I don't step. I'm gonna stand in my truth. I was like, Brittany, don't talk to me like that. She's like, I don't remember what it was you were calling me and asking me for. Was it about the ticket or not yet? I don't remember, because you're gotten a ticket. So so you had the car for a little bit because you'd even gotten a ticket.
I only had it for a week.
Okay. So she called me about, was it? I don't remember what it was. Can't remember. I won't tell a lie. And it was just this attitude. And I remember saying to her, Brittany, who you talking to like that? And she was like, just the attitude. I said, I said, you want me to just slit your throat and drown you in the pool?
She said and she was like, you only gonna be able to walk across the stairs. She said, but just I tell you, like I just walking across the stairs. She said, oh, you won't even walk across the stairs. We'll drag you across the stairs. But kill you. I was like, oh my god.
Listen, the Jamaican
my grandma, my dad were on the phone at the time because I had called my dad and she didn't know, so that created a whole can of
Oh, so you three-wayed me.
I think it was three-wayed. I think me and my dad were on the phone first. I can't remember. And then my dad called my grandma.
So
she called my grandma.
So the grandma calls me. I'm at work, y'all. I don't care. You're not gonna get a chance to disrespect me. Neither.
I didn't feel like I was being disrespectful.
Neither her. Well,
of course. That's
an opinion.
Okay.
Neither her, my son. I just don't take well with disrespect. And so then her grandmother called. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Yeah, she gonna see this video. This is how I felt. So then I retaliated through text as I was at school and I couldn't go off. So I retaliated through text. And that's what, and you know, we're gonna leave that alone because I have love for her grandmother. And after that, she was like, after that, oh yeah, that's when I went and got the tags because then that's when I was like,
but that conversation with graduation did after you said you was gonna kill me before I walked across the stage. That's when I was like, I don't even want you there.
That's not how you told me, Ariella. You called me. I'm not gonna lie. You called me a weekend because I was home. When you got that news, you called me and said, Mom, I just want you to let you know I don't want you in Latrell at the graduation. You had already called me. Yeah, because it was not at work. That was not going to happen. That was not at work. I remember. I know you called me. And so that was not at work. I was still going to let her keep the car. You understand? That wasn't an issue. But that disrespect, okay, that was an incident, right? We still going at it, whatever. Her friend, whatever. Oh, and I told her as I was ranting and raving, I was like, yo, I'm gonna come over there and I need to talk to the young lady's parents. You know what she said to me? She is gonna let me talk to the young lady's parents.
Was not, because I felt like at that time my mom was out to get me. I felt like she wanted to tarnish my character to everyone.
No.
And I felt like I was just like, to me, I felt like I had nobody. Literally nobody. It was just me. And I felt like I don't want not another person to look at me the wrong way, like I'm this bad child or whatever it may be. So I was like, nope.
That wasn't a true and honest answer. Her true and honest answer was like, you're going to talk to them and then they're going to be listening to you. But it wasn't to tarnish your character. But if I sat down with two Jamaican parents and say, this is my version, this is what happened, of course, they're going to be like, oh, it is only natural. It is just what it is. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, and as much as she thinks that I was tarnishing her or putting her business out there, I wasn't. There was a lot of people that this is all new. Even Ayana, rap like this, there were certain things I never told her. Mm-hmm. The person that I told was present in our lives. That's the only person that knew every detail. It was only one person. The person you stayed with, not everybody knew every single detail. And there was things I held back. And it was so funny because when I was talking to my best friend, some months ago last year, and she's like, oh, you never told me that. I was like, oh, snap. I forgot that there were certain things you bury so deep because at the end of the day, it's still your child and you want to protect. But,
goodness, this is a lot. We went through a lot. But at the end of the day, but at the end of the day, when you look at it all though, right, you just look back because we know God is nothing about chaos. He's nothing about anger. God says you can anger, but you can't wrath. This was all the devil's plan. I don't know. And we let him in many ways. Both you and I. We just had the door open.
Especially was like, my reaction.
Right. And then the enemy knows, he knows your weaknesses. He knows how to use you to talk to me. He knows how to use me. He knew how to use me to talk to my mom. And he knew how to use the people around us to get in those doors. And then we just ended up.
He did. Because then she ended up.
Spiritual warfare. We were, and we didn't even, the thing is, because we weren't deep in our faith, I feel like at that point, we still had scales on our eyes. We weren't open. Like, we didn't see what was going on. We were just thinking, we just hated each other. We didn't want nothing to do with each other. Like, that's my mom, but that's my daughter, but and now we look back at it, we're like, oh my God. Like, remember when I first got, we were like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, but I have to bring a thing because there was something that really hurt me too, and was that the whole calling the cop on me. Like that, like when you're in a certain, there's a certain adult feel like they have a vantage point, like you've always had the kid on your side, so now I'm gonna take advantage of this. And she was encouraged to call the cop. Listen, if I tell you I'm gonna slit your throat and then drown you in the pool, you're already dead. How am I gonna do both? That doesn't make no sense. That's just anger. So here I am, and I get a phone call. Ding, 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 ding. Hello. It was a social worker calling me, saying my child is homeless and out there on the streets. And I'm like, what? Mind you, I'm giving this person money. I don't even know where. So, I mean, God is good, because then when the social worker came and the police officer, he's like, oh, this is going to be really quick. Saw where she would have lived, heard the whole story. And then he said, have you ever threatened her? Have you ever beat her? I said, I sure did tell her I was going to slit her throat and drown her in the pool. I said, but technically, how you could do that? He's like, okay. Listen, they can tell it's a system. And even the lady, I remember the lady from the social work office, beautiful lady. I don't remember her name. And she was like, well, what is it? CPS, Child Protective Services. And that was like a blow to me, like she called Child Protective Services. But I know that was the pressures. Was that really her, or the adult pressures in her life? Like, because remember, this is abuse. No, that wasn't abuse. That was me letting it out. I was anger. I wasn't abusing my child. I never threw my girl child on the street to just be staying on the street. And it was like CPS. And I remember that lady being so empathetic. She's like, American teenagers just have so much freedom. She's like, she was from a Latin country, and she's like, they're difficult there too, but it's not to the point of. And I remember them telling me, go to her graduation regardless. That is the only thing I regret. I remember they saying, bring her home and go to her graduation. But then she was like 17.85. Like, she was like right there. And I'm like, do I want to go and do this fight of dragging her home for her to leave a week later?
The thing is, I would have went home. That's what you don't know. I would have went home.
And I regret it, because
I was so depressed that day. It wasn't.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's not your fault.
I mean, I was at her graduation. I watched her on TV.
Girl, you wasn't there. That's not
walking across.
But
and she looked beautiful. Her hair and she was on fleek, as they say. I don't even know if they say that no more.
I was so depressed that day. No matter who was around me, I was depressed. Sorry.
Yeah. Because you need your mom. Like
and it was just, what my mom doesn't know is that day was so hard, because that same day, that same boy I was dating cursed me like a dog. I don't know why, but it was hard, and I had no one to talk to. The friend I thought was a friend at the time was so jealous of me. So it was hard that day. I went to the graduation with her, and she was like complaining about everything. And I'm just like, you don't see what you have around you. Got your mom, you got your dad, you got your grandma, like everybody came for you, and I felt like I was going in alone. The person I thought I was in love with was cursing me out like a dog, treated me bad, and I'm begging that person to come, and yeah, I still had people who came, and I appreciate them, and my mom, like my dad and my grandparents flew in, but it was not the same as having your mom and your brother there. I was depressed, no matter how beautiful. I didn't even want to go. I didn't go to graduation.
And you had Uncle Zach. He was there. And Uncle Zach wanted to give me his ticket. And he was like, you could take my ticket. And I begged him to go. I was like, no, go, because I'm not going to go and don't bring my son. I said, that's not fair. And the thing is,
and honestly, nobody used their tickets. Everybody just got in. Because that's graduation. It was hectic, but that was a stample in my life. And I think that kicked everything off for me. And then after that, I just felt head first. And, like the friend that she was with was telling me my mom wanted me on the street. She was saying to kick me out once I turned some age. But I was like, it is what it is.
No, what I told that person was, when she turns 18, I'm not responsible, because she wants to be grown. So I'm not going to be responsible. I'm not going to sit here Brittany has a home. And that was the last thing I said to that lady. I said, Brittany has a home. Brittany can always come back home.
Well, what was interpreted to me was, your mom told me to put all your stuff on the street when you turn 18.
I never ever said that.
That
I wouldn't say. So because I knew she had support, like her grandmother and stuff like that. I knew Brittany wouldn't end up on the street. But my thing was, I told her, I'm not paying anything. She can come home. She can always come home. My doors are open. She can always come home. And
that wasn't how it relayed to me.
No, I get it.
But that was just...
I get it, but I'm just telling you my feedback on it. Like, this is how I felt. And one thing I learned with this was, even though what I was going through with her, there's a lot of regrets I had. I mean, thank God I've forgiven myself. She's forgiven me. I've forgiven her. All that we talk about it, we could even laugh. Like, I'm cried out with certain situations. But what I learned is support your kids. Like, even when it's hard, even when you literally want to slit their throat and drown them in the pool, just support them, because it's a cry out. We need it. Yeah, it's a crying out, because the moment Mama Bear stepped back, those who wanted to go after her, especially that young man, he got that control. And because he's a broken young man, see, I'm not here to tear him down. He did some really terrible things to my daughter. His family did some really terrible things to my daughter. But I truly, with the love of God, I forgive them. And I'm not here to tear him down. But because of what's operating in him, that enemy was like, boom, I'm ready. It's like, I got her. I wanted this little girl broken from a long time ago. And, you know, and it was just like,
tried, but he couldn't.
Mama Bear wasn't there, but I never stopped praying. I just think prayer and lessons, and God worked on me. God worked on me to be here where I'm at now, because one of the things I had asked God for when you were gone, and I was trying to force the relationship. Sometimes I call her, sometimes I text, you know, I leave little messages, long messages, and I was always having dreams about her. But in that 4.5 year span, there's things that, I mean, when I look back on those things, I've learned a lot about myself too, and I realized, as a broken woman, I didn't know how to be whole. I didn't know how to be the best mom. I did my best, but it wasn't the best. You understand? Like, the way I handled certain situations. Like, there's no way I'm going to tell my grandson now, I'll slit your throat and drown you in the pool. I mean, it's just like abusive words, like, you know, and anger. Anger gets no one anywhere. There's a lot of things I learned. I had to learn to, like, my vocabulary. I told y'all from the beginning, man. Go back and you watch the videos. My mouth, I'll say anything that comes to mind. And it's just to hurt. It's to hit hard. I don't care who you are. If you're coming at me, it's my defense. But I had to learn. I had to grow up. I'm still learning to this very day. So this may have been a little bit all over the place, but we're trying to get everything in. And the next episode, we're going to talk about abuse. And it's not the easiest topic. And
overcoming abuse.
This was difficult to deal with. And, you know, so that was the end of high school.
That was it. I wrapped high school up all in a bunch. So we thank you guys for watching and seeing my ugly cry. We hope you guys like, comment, and subscribe.
She get it from me, guys. Yeah. I didn't cry this time.
Next time.
No,
I'm just joking. We hope you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and press that notification bell, and share to others.
Have a blessed day.
Have a blessed one.